get-well game against the Philadelphia 76ers, taking advantage of their injuries and looking every bit the Jazz team we like to see after a fabulous practice on Monday led to it all. Ron Boone tells you about it coming up on POSTCAST. POSTCAST is brought to you by the store located at 6200 South as well and 20th East, as well as at the Gateway right across the way. Mudslide cookie celebration. Jazz had lost 4 of 5. Sixers had lost 4 in a row. Sixers came in without Embiid, without Thibault, without Green, without Simmons. And the Jazz needed that very much. But more importantly, what the Jazz may have needed was a practice session yesterday to get back in line, Ron.
Exactly. And anytime you have a practice like the Jazz had yesterday, they were able to come out and accomplish what they set out to do. It just makes the game more fun. Now, I don't care if they're if Philadelphia was shorthanded or not. You still needed to execute your offense and do the things that follow the game plan. That will carry you over into the next basketball game.
All right, what were the things that you noticed the most from watching the Jazz that you saw in practice the day before?
Pace of play, first of all, because and I had in my notes that the pace was just unbelievable yesterday. The energy level, the yelling, the talking to each other, and just it reminded me so much of training camp that I saw exactly what Quinn was trying to accomplish with his team, from pushing the ball up the floor, advancing it up the floor, not just pushing it, dribbling, but advancing it off the dribble. We saw a lot of that tonight, and it just makes Joe Ingles and I think Bojan more effective and more so into the basketball game than what we've seen so far this early season.
You and Tim Lacombe talked about this on the postgame show afterwards. What does the extra few seconds, getting across at 20 or 21, do for a team?
Just think about that. I mean, the timeline, you get 16 seconds. And for a team, and a lot of the teams that walk the ball up the floor and then play a secondary break, that's about when they get the ball over the timeline. They barely get it over. So if you're getting the basketball over the timeline with 20 seconds on the clock, now you get to make that extra pass and something like that, and you're not constantly working in a short clock to execute your offense. A lot of times team defense or your opponent will take away your first option. They'll take away the second option a lot of times. So that extra 2 or 3 seconds could mean a heck of a lot in you getting the type of shot, that you want. And a lot of times, David, you catch the defense not ready to defend. Catch them out of position. You catch them in a mismatch, and you don't have to create that mismatch. I just love that extra 2 or 3 seconds.
Sometimes it might be hard for Jazz fans to understand, why don't we look like ourselves? That's been kind of what the reason generally is, because other teams have stopped playing us in the fashion where the Jazz are so dominant that you can't have success. So in other words, what I mean by that is, when the Jazz are playing pick and roll offense with a drop big or pick and roll defense with a big that stays around the rim, you can't beat the Jazz. Gobert's too big. We saw that tonight.
Right.
Like when Andre Drummond was on the floor, well, I don't know what Drummond finished tonight, minus 22 in 12 minutes. Yeah. So for the 12 minutes the 76ers attempted to play the Jazz, where Rudy Gobert could stay around the rim, and the Jazz could run pick and roll against a big dropping and have Rudy attacking the rim, it was an unmitigated disaster.
Exactly. It's Drummond. I don't think, and even when he was playing with Detroit, I know he had a little stink with it with the Lakers. He's always been ineffective, I think, against the Jazz. Rudy has that impact against him, but offense, you try to execute your offense to take advantage of certain things out there on the floor. Defensively, Jazz did that. I mean, it's one of those games where it's like, let's get healthy playing the Philadelphia 76ers.
What's interesting is the fourth quarter against Miami, which really didn't have much chance to win and seemed, to me, somewhat irrelevant, did spark Bogey to seem like he's back on his game.
Yeah, and Donovan made reference to that this morning about, they didn't win the basketball game, but, that type of pace, that level that they played in, the final 6, 7, 8 minutes of the ball game at an attempt to get themselves back in the game. Obviously, they wasn't going to do it, but that type of thing carries you over into a ball game like this. And then what we saw what it does to Boyan. He had 12 shots tonight. That's about what he's averaging, the course of the year. But you think about the types of shots that he was getting, opposed to some rush shots or shots in the short clock, things like that. 12 shots in 27 minutes. And probably could have got more than that if he'd have played his normal 30, 31.
Joe Ingles is the one who did not get off the schneid shooting-wise, but he did have 7 assists tonight. So that's a nice night for Joe, at least to get that pick-and-roll game going. But he ended up finishing the night 1 for 6, so his shooting still not quite right. Clarkson seemed to be a little bit more like Jordan Clarkson, we know. The other aspect of this game would be that once the Jazz annihilated Andre Drummond, then the Sixers went to a switching defense, playing George Niang and other smalls at the center, and the Jazz seem to have no problem with that.
Yeah, you take advantage of that, and there have been other teams that have gone small like that, probably a little more athletic, and could get away with it. Not with a 6'7" center with George Niang, who can't defend and probably a little slower foot, but more of a 6'8", 6'9" athletic player that could stretch the floor there as well, would create some different problems. But, Sixers did what they had to do, and obviously it was going to be unsuccessful.
Jazz shoot it well tonight, 16 of 38, back to 42%, 52% from the field. This was really a shorthanded team, and the biggest thing of the night was that Philadelphia came in 30th in the NBA in transition defense, and the Jazz took full-fledged advantage of that.
Yeah, they did. It's not a lot, to say other than, they took advantage of every part of the ball game, I guess. But again, if the Jazz did not look good against this team, then I would have been a little worried about what's going to happen in the next ball game.
Right. No, I mean, we said at dinner tonight. I mean, you and I said, wow, if we don't win tonight, be fairly catastrophic coming off that kind of practice, that kind of. One note tonight, Donovan left the game, went to the locker room, came back, but never played again. So I don't know if there was nothing reported to us injury-wise. Maybe it was something, more and more guys do that. They've got people back there, but it is worth keeping an eye on, see if anything develops out of that in any way, shape, or form. Otherwise, not a lot to it. Thursday, Rudy Gay, I think, feels like it. Nothing official, but it does feel like it, unless, there's been some soreness or something. He is 35 years old, so there's a chance you'd wait till Saturday in Sacramento, but he's awfully close. We may see that. Toronto's a good one. Tickets are available for that at UtahJazz.com. Jazz get well tonight against Philadelphia. Ron Boone gets the game ball for his work being at practice yesterday and seeing everything and bringing it to the broadcast. Did we forget anything tonight?
No, let's go home.
All right. It's late, really late.
Yeah.
See it.